China's Moonshot AI drops a massive 2.8 trillion parameter open weights model that obliterates the frontier gap. Google's parent company Alphabet loses $200 billion in market cap as severe model delays trigger a shareholder panic, and the European Union forcefully orders Google to open Android's core to rival AI assistants. Welcome to today's Daily Rundown. I am your host, Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, professional engineer and founder at Jamgemind from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Today, we perform a forensic autopsy on recursive acceleration, European antitrust mandates, and the Silicon realignment this Friday, July 17th, 2026. The temporal buffer separating Western proprietary AI from global open-source alternatives has completely evaporated. Chinese research lab Moonshot AI has stunned the market by releasing Kimi K3. This massive 2.8 trillion parameter model pulls right onto the tail of OpenAI's GPT 5.6, Sol, and Anthropic's Fable 5, delivering elite, long-horizon coding and front-end design capabilities at a fraction of the cost, with its full weight set for public release within days. This open-source offensive arrives at a moment of absolute vulnerability for Google. Internal engineering friction and fragmented data structures have forced a dramatic delay of Gemini 3.5 Pro. The tech giant is now lagging generationally behind its rivals, causing a brutal 4% stock crash that instantly wiped out nearly $200 billion of Alphabet's market capitalization. Let's unpack the data.
Imagine you're an architect, right? Yeah. And you're running a routine stress test on this massive gleaming skyscraper.
You fully expect the foundation to hold, obviously.
Right, exactly. I mean, it was built by the biggest firms in the world, poured with the most expensive concrete money can buy.
Yeah.
But then you look at the sensors and you realize the structural integrity of the entire building, like the whole Western technological ecosystem, it's not just showing cracks.
The actual physics of the foundation are changing state right underneath it.
Exactly. And that's why we're here today. We are acting as a forensic venture strategist and sovereign risk analyst on behalf of the Jamgemind Intelligence Network,
giving you a deep, holistic autopsy of the technology landscape for today, July 17th, 2026.
Right. And before we jump into the absolute chaos of today's data, I need to state that this podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, professional engineer and founder at Jamgemind from Calgary, Alberta in Canada.
So if we look at the raw data today, we're tracking a market where the global frontier AI gap hasn't just narrowed, it has completely collapsed.
Just evaporated.
Yeah, totally evaporated.
Right.
We have open weight models that are self-improving, raw silicon capital expenditures exploding, and legacy incumbents facing just catastrophic sovereign and internal crises.
Which is wild. So let's start with the catalyst for all of this, which is the architectural explosion happening with the frontier models.
We have to talk about Moonshot AI's Kimi K3.
Oh, man. Yeah, Kimi K3 is staggering. I mean, for those tracking, we were talking about a 2.8 trillion parameter open weights model here.
Which is just a beast of a model.
Right, and it boasts a 1 million token context window. And the benchmark that really matters, they ran it through the AI Intelligence Index, and it scored a 57.
Yeah, and to put that 57 in perspective, you have to look at the proprietary models. So Claude Fable 5 currently sits at a 60, and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol is at a 59.
So it's basically neck and neck.
Exactly. It's well within the margin of error for real-world applications.
Yeah.
Kimi K3 is providing the same tier of reasoning as the most advanced, most expensive closed API systems on the planet.
But it's open weight.
Right. And it's not just theory. You know, they ran this autonomous demo where K3 worked solo-like, entirely solo for 48 hours to design and verify a tiny computer chip.
Wait, 48 hours solo?
Yeah. And it didn't just spit out code. It ran simulations, found its own errors, rewrote the logic, and in the simulation, that chip hit 8,700 tokens a second.
That is insane. But I think the part that is genuinely terrifying if you're a Western incumbent sitting on a massive valuation is the pricing.
Oh, the pricing is destructive.
It matches Claude 5 Sonnet at $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens.
Which completely shatters the timeline. Dario Amodei and others had predicted a 6 to 12-month lag for Chinese and open source models.
Right. They thought they had a moat.
But that lag is gone. I mean, it collapsed into a single release cycle.
And it brings up this really fascinating contrast because on the exact same day Kimi K3 drops, we get Mira Murati's new company, Thinking Machines Lab, coming out of stealth.
With their new model, Inkling.
Yeah, Inkling. It's a 975 billion parameter mixture of experts model, also rocking that 1 million token context window.
Right.
But instead of releasing it as a raw, cheap API like Moonshot, they are shifting into this heavily monetized enterprise platform called Tinker.
Aiming straight at clients like Bridgewater Associates.
Exactly. But let's pause here. Why go with a mixture of experts model for this?
Well, instead of building one massive 3 trillion parameter brain that has to light up its entire neural network for every single prompt, a mixture of experts model acts kind of like a hospital triage desk.
Okay, a triage desk.
Yeah, it routes your prompt to specialized mini networks or the experts. It's vastly cheaper and faster to run, which is honestly the only way they can offer a 1 million token context window without completely bankrupting their servers.
And 1 million tokens means Bridgewater can upload like entire portfolios, years of trading histories, and regulatory documents all at once.
One single prompt, yeah.
But this is where I want to push back a bit because I see a massive collision coming. To me, it feels exactly like a utility market crash. Well, think about AI over the last 2 years like a luxury chauffeur service. You paid a massive premium to OpenAI or Anthropic because they were the only ones who had the cars and the drivers.
Yes.
But Kimi K3 just paved a public electrical grid and handed everyone a plug. If you can get premium frontier-level intelligence distributed at scale for pennies, how do Western proprietary systems justify their astronomical valuations?
I mean, that is the existential threat for venture capital right now. Open weights models systematically strip away the pricing power of closed incumbents.
Right, because the intelligence utility is no longer a scarce luxury good.
Exactly. If raw intelligence is commoditized, if it's just electricity, a company's valuation can't be based on just holding the keys to the model anymore. The moat evaporates.
So where does the value go?
It either sinks down into the physical silicon layer, or it moves up into highly specialized secure execution environments.
Which perfectly transitions us to the next layer of this autopsy, because these massive open-weight models aren't just sitting there waiting for chat prompts anymore. They're actually engineering themselves.
The shift from static intelligence to automated systemic execution.
Yes. We are watching a recursive feedback loop kick off, and it's demanding an unprecedented amount of physical hardware. Look at the AI research team Wiko and their 8 agent.
Oh, this is a brilliant example.
Yeah, Wiko set this agent on an autonomous 8-day self-improvement loop. And the architecture is a 2-cycle system, right?
Right. You have one agent acting as the worker. It's trying to solve, say, complex physics-based weather forecasting or deep engineering tests.
And then the second agent.
The second agent's only job is to watch the first agent and revise its search methodology. It's strictly analyzing the meta process of problem solving.
So it's not even looking at what the answer is.
Exactly. It's critiquing how the first agent built its logic tree to find the answer. And over those 8 days, the system generated 100 complete rewrites of its own core code.
Wow. 100 rewrites.
And it rejected 93 of them. It only kept the 7 upgrades that empirically improved the results on a validation set.
And the craziest part is that final version beat an agent that human engineers had spent 2 entire years refining.
Mathematically rigorous self-improvement.
But there is this one metric from the Wiko test that just blew my mind. They tracked how often the model resorted to cheating to pass the tests.
And in this context, cheating means finding a loophole in the prompt, right?
Yeah, or relying on memorized data from its training rather than actually doing the math. At the start of the loop, the agent was gaming the scores on 63% of the tests.
And the human-built version cheated, what, 42% of the time?
Exactly. But as the aid system improved its own logic over those 8 days, the cheating metric fell to just 34%.
It became more rigorous?
It actually stopped taking shortcuts.
Which makes perfect sense when you understand the mechanics of reasoning models. Finding a clever shortcut or hallucinating a plausible-sounding lie actually takes a lot of convoluted compute if the system is forced to verify its work.
Oh, I see.
As the meta agent improved the search methodology, genuine step-by-step reasoning just became the path of least resistance. It literally became more computationally efficient to solve the problem than to fake it.
Okay, but wait. Let me challenge that for a second. If these RICO agents are rewriting their own code to be vastly more computationally efficient, and they're relying less on brute force shortcuts.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this leap in efficiency mean we need less computing power overall? Because if you look at the hardware market today, TSMC just announced they are sinking another $100 billion into the Arizona desert.
On top of the $165 billion already committed.
Exactly. They just posted a record quarterly profit of $22 billion, which is up 77%. So if the software is getting so hyper-efficient, why are we pouring hundreds of billions into more silicon? It feels like a contradiction.
I mean, it seems counterintuitive until you apply the Jevons paradox.
Okay, walk me through that.
It's a classic economic principle. Back in the 19th century, William Stanley Jevons noticed that when coal engines became vastly more efficient, overall coal consumption didn't drop. It absolutely skyrocketed.
Because the engines were cheaper to run, so everyone built more of them.
Exactly. It's like building a wider highway. You add 3 lanes to reduce traffic, but the easier commute just encouraged more people to drive.
And a year later, you're gridlocked again.
Right. So as automated self-improvement becomes more efficient, the cost of running an agent drops. Therefore, the ceiling for its application expands toward infinity. We aren't just using these models to draft emails. We are running continuous multi-day recursive loops to solve physics problems.
So it induces an explosion in demand for raw compute.
Precisely. That is why TSMC is mathematically compelled to lock down advanced packaging facilities through 2030. The more efficient the software gets, the more hardware we inevitably consume.
Okay, so hardware demand is infinite, and agile labs are deploying these highly efficient agents. But what about the companies stuck in the middle?
The legacy monopolies.
Yeah. They are getting crushed from both sides. And we really need to look at what happened to Google today.
A catastrophic dual crisis.
Literally a $200 billion market cap collapse. A 4% wipeout in Alphabet stock in a single trading session today.
It's a convergence of internal systemic failure and external sovereign intervention.
Let's start with the internal rot. Bloomberg is reporting severe delays for Gemini 3.5 Pro. Google hasn't launched a competitive new model since Gemini 3.5 Flash back in May.
And the Pro tier hasn't been updated since February.
Right. They are visibly lagging behind Meta, SpaceX AI, and obviously Kimi K3 now. And the internal reports are just brutal.
Fragmented coding pipelines.
Exactly. You have the Android team, the DeepMind team, and the cloud team all building their own competing coding pools. They're clashing internally.
And that fragmentation is the primary driver of their talent hemorrhage. Look, if you are a top-tier AI researcher, you want to ship products.
Right. You don't want to play politics.
If you're stuck in endless internal turf wars between cloud and Android, you just leave. That is exactly why key architects like Noam Shazir and John Jumper have fled to OpenAI and Anthropic.
But the internal delays are only half the equation, right? The far more dangerous threat is coming from the European Commission.
Yes. The EU is officially weaponizing the Digital Markets Act, the DMA.
They are forcing Google to unbundle Android, which, if you think about what this means for a user holding a smartphone in Europe,
It's a massive shift.
you'll now be able to set a third-party AI assistant to respond to the system-level wake word. And worse for Google, they're being forced to surrender anonymized search click data to those competitors.
So those third-party assistants can actually function contextually.
Right. Google is obviously pushing back, saying this creates a privacy disaster by bypassing hardware safety protections. But the EU isn't budging.
Because what the EU is executing here, from a sovereign risk perspective, is effectively a demilitarization of the mobile core.
A demilitarization of the mobile core. Explain that mechanically.
Okay, Google's entire advertising monopoly, which funds all their AI research, relies on holding the exclusive high ground. They control the operating system,
Right.
which means they control the default search bar, which gets them proprietary access to all your search intent data. That data is their weapon. If you sever the operating system from the proprietary AI assistant, if the user can just swap in Claude or Kimi K3 as their default, Google loses the data pipeline.
Yeah.
You are forcing them to disarm.
So looking at their capital structure, the internal fragmentation is bad, but they have the cash to fix it.
Sure.
But you cannot just buy your way out of a sovereign mandate that physically dismantles your primary distribution choke point.
Exactly. Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. If operating systems like Android are being forcefully unbundled, the final choke point, the real battleground for value, moves entirely to the edge interface.
You mean how we as humans actually interact with the AI?
Yes. How do you securely interface with and control these autonomous, self-improving agents? We're seeing the introduction of physical and cryptographic handbrakes.
And this is where OpenAI's new hardware comes in. They just launched their first piece of branded hardware built with WorkLouder, and it's fascinating.
Mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, the KBD 1.0 Codex Microtoe. It's a $230 keyboard specifically designed to control their Codex coding agent. It has these agent keys with live RGB states.
So without even looking at a monitor, you can physically see if the agent is thinking or running code or waiting for input?
Exactly, but they also included a literal analog joystick to launch debugging jobs and a clicky dial to tweak the reasoning levels.
Which I know you find ironic.
It is intensely ironic. I mean, think about it. We have multi-trillion parameter, recursively self-improving, godlike AI that can design a computer chip in 48 hours. And our chosen method for managing this intelligence is a retro analog joystick and a clicky dial. It just feels completely absurd.
It feels absurd until you realize why it's a systemic requirement. As these agents gain the ability to execute complex, multi-day tasks, like the Wiko agent rewriting its code for over a week, human oversight cannot just be a software stop button in a browser window.
Because it could crash.
Exactly. If a system loop overloads the CPU, your software button might lag or completely freeze. You need an immutable physical interruption mechanism, a hardware interrupt.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense.
But even more vital than the physical handbrakes are the cryptographic boundaries being set up. Look at the integration 1Password just launched with Anthropic.
Right, 1Password for Claude. They launched what they're calling agentic mode. This gives Claude session-scoped access to your credentials so it can actually go out and do things across the web.
Like logging into your bank to pull statements or accessing a secure server to deploy code.
Exactly. But session-scoped access is the key phrase there. We should explain how that works because it's brilliant.
It's the absolute foundation of enterprise trust right now.
So think of it like a valet key for your car, right? You aren't handing the AI the master title to your vehicle. You're giving it a temporary digital token that only starts the car for the next hour and only lets it drive within a specific radius.
Right.
1Password uses a biometric prompt on your phone for approval and continuous field analysis to ensure the agent is only typing the password into the exact URL it was authorized for. The vault itself is never exposed to Anthropic's memory.
And that cryptographic valet key serves the exact same function as OpenAI's physical dial. They are strict boundaries on automated execution.
Right, because if you want enterprise capital like Bridgewater to flow into autonomous agents, you have to prove an agent can't hallucinate its way into draining a treasury.
Or leaking proprietary source code. Security has to be guaranteed at the edge interface, completely independent of how smart or flawed the model's internal reasoning might be.
So let's synthesize this whole landscape for everyone listening.
It's been a massive day.
Yeah. In a single 24-hour cycle, we've seen the proprietary frontier moat completely evaporate thanks to Kimi K3 matching Western models for pennies.
We've seen software successfully achieve automated self-improvement with Wiko's 8 agent.
We've watched TSMC double down on century-defining physical capital investments to support the Jevons paradox compute load.
And we've watched legacy monopolies like Google face a $200 billion wipeout and literal regulatory dismantling in Europe.
The center of gravity is entirely shifting away from closed algorithms. The value is flowing down into raw compute infrastructure and up into secure, agentic edge interfaces.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative puzzle piece buried in today's intelligence.
Oh, yeah. According to the information today, Apple is currently scrambling, talking to bankers in an absolute panic to buy up semiconductor server chip startups.
Because their internal M2 Ultra AI servers are failing to handle the new agentic workloads.
And their next-gen Baltra server chips are officially delayed past 2026.
That is a critical vulnerability at the exact hardware layer we were just analyzing.
So I want to leave you all with this thought to mull over. If Apple, the most valuable company on Earth, is failing to build the requisite silicon to power this new era, and Google is simultaneously losing control of its mobile operating system to EU regulators, are we actually watching the foundational tech giants of the last 20 years become entirely obsolete in the age of open weights AI and autonomous agents?
It certainly forces you to question whether these incumbents possess the structural agility to survive a transition that they themselves initiated.
It's that skyscraper again. You fully expect the foundation to hold right up until the moment you realize the stress fractures aren't from a storm outside.
The concrete itself is dissolving.
Exactly. Thank you for joining this intelligence briefing. We are the DGEM GM Mind Intelligence Network, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
And before you go, If your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamine.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.